We've got a jam-packed week of updates to go over today. So this week we have a first look at gyro controls working in the ROG Ally, as well as battery life and performance improvements. We'll take a look at a cool new accessory for the Steam Deck, cover an extension of the AOKZOE A1 Pro campaign, a sneak peek of the Onexplayer 2 Pro and a new eGPU from Onexplayer. We've also got some great news and some challenges for the AYN Loki Max, some new products that are available now from AYANEO, as well as one coming later this year. We'll also take a look at a new AYANEO mini PC enclosure and a new campaign coming for GPD. Welcome back everyone to another OKestWeekly recap where we cover all things handheld PC gaming. All news or no news, we'll cover every brand. And don't forget, if you enjoy this video, do the OKest thing and boop that like button. And if you're enjoying the channel, subscribe below. Alright, let's jump into it. This week I have a number of ROG Ally updates for you. We're going to cover battery life improvements, performance improvements across the whole TDP range, gyro controls working on the Ally, and a technical error that caused some users to receive their devices early. So let's start things off with some updates to the battery life. In regards to battery life, we may be in for some significant improvements of what we've been currently seeing in early reviews. I came across an article from The Verge where we got some more information on how ASUS is planning to respond to all of the criticism that they received for poor battery life. It seems that after the first wave of reviews, ASUS saw roughly 10% of the original buyers cancel their pre-orders, which they believe is a response to the early reviews. After seeing this, ASUS had a fair number of meetings to find a way to sort through this, and they concluded that their priorities need to probably shift to include improvement for the Ally's low wattage performance, something that the Steam Deck excels at. For a first software improvement, they're giving customers the ability to turn off some of the Z1 Extreme's processor cores to increase battery performance at low TDP. Another solution that they've been asked by many people is just increasing the ROG Ally's battery size, but it doesn't seem that that's something that they're even considering because keeping the weight low is something that's a priority for them. So the good news is that it's not all just about battery life. We've also seen some improvements for the performance of the device at low TDP. Recently, Dave2D put out a video where we can see the before results, and then after he received a software update that increased the performance by up to about 20%. You can check out his full video for more information, but today we're going to briefly go over the results. You can see at 9 watt, there's a large improvement over the previous ROG Ally results pre-software update. It seems to slightly lag behind the 7840U, as you can see in the AYANEO 2S results, but it's a significant improvement over the results before the software update. So while it comes close to the Steam Deck now at 9 watt TDP, the Steam Deck still holds the crown. I don't think anyone's going to be taking that for a little while. Moving over to 15 watt, we see similar results, although at 15 watt, the Ally and Neo 2S seem to be pretty evenly matched, but once again the ROG Ally versus itself in the previous software version has significant improvements. And of course the Steam Deck is falling behind at 15 watts, but we were expecting that. And finally at 25 watt we see improvements as well, although it's not as dramatic as the 15 watt gains. Here we see the Ally slightly behind the 7840U as seen in the Neo 2S, but more importantly it's vastly better than the previous Ally results. So it seems that all the results that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks are now a little bit closer than they were previously between the 7840U and the ROG Ally. So far it really does seem that the Z1 Extreme is extremely similar to the 7840U, although just slightly behind in performance. Moving on, there's some other exciting news is we got our first look at gyro working on the Ally, and this was through a program called Handheld Companion. For those that haven't heard of Handheld Companion, it's software that a few developers have been working on over the past couple of years to bring gyro controls to work specifically on handheld devices, although the software does also have a number of other features. I'll leave a link to the YouTube video showing a first look at gyro, as well as a link to the Handheld Companion Discord server where you can learn more about the project and see if it's something that you're interested in. From what I've gathered, in the first week of the ROG Ally launch, there's going to be a build for the ROG Ally for those that support the project through Patreon, and I believe it will be available publicly shortly after. This is of course an assumption I'm making. So if this is something that you're interested in, drop in the server, say hi, get to know the developers. They're pretty chill and they're great guys to chat with. Check the video description once again for the links. And moving on to our last bit of ROG Ally news, if you're like me, you're likely connected in various Discord, Facebook, or or Reddit groups for the ROG Ally, and you've probably come across a few people saying that they've already received their device. And if you've been paying attention, most of them are coming from Finland. So that wasn't just coincidence. We got a message from the store that sells the ROG Ally in Finland, who seemed to have sent out the device early due to a technical error, which we can see in a statement from the store that confirmed that this was an error sending it out early, and that there's going to be a software update coming out on June 13th that will let users get the full experience. Now, what I'm going to draw from that is that that's likely that software update that we were just talking about, that we saw from Dave2D as well as from The Verge for the battery improvements. So it's nice to see confirmation that, that software is likely coming on launch day. So it should be a day one patch. So once you've had enough time to calm your jealousy down, there's a couple of positives we can pull from this whole situation here. So they were able to send out a number of pre-orders early, which to me suggests that they probably have been sitting on stock for a little while. So I'm really hoping that all of the pre-orders that were for sale are probably going to be in stock. Now, of course, I'm just hoping and guessing, but it looks like we may not end up with a Steam Deck scenario where you order your device and then end up waiting a number of months before they can actually produce it. It seems that they probably have a good stock already. Of course, I could be wrong on this, and maybe there is going to be not every device shipping out, but let's hope that it is. You can join me in my hopium here that we're going to get the device all on launch day, those that pre-ordered. So that's all I've got for the ROG Ally. So let's move on to the Steam Deck, where we're going to review some software updates as well as a new accessory. This week for the Steam Deck, I have a couple things to go over. The first one's actually an accessory, and this from JSOX. So they've actually made a transparent case that is both the front and the back. Previously, they've made some transparent, I think they were like a smoky kind of color back case where you replace the back shell, you can see inside, look kind of cool. But now with having the front and the back, you can see both sides of the Steam Deck, and it sounds like they have some RGB related products they're going to be putting out. So I'm guessing this case is largely in preparation for that, or just for people that want to be able to see inside their Steam Deck. So keep an eye on it if this is something you're interested in. It should be coming out soon. But aside from that, we just have some software updates. It's actually kind of crazy how many software updates happen every week. Just this week, between the stable OS and the beta client, there's 4 updates. So for the stable OS, it's just going to be a short and sweet update. It's just an update to the graphics drivers that fixes a crash with the game Splitgate, as well as improved performance for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We had 3 updates to the beta client, so I'm not going to go super in depth with them, but I'll just highlight a couple things. So most of it was bug fixes, but one thing that they addressed was there was some gyroscope sensitivity issues with the Nintendo Pro Control as well as the Joy-Cons. So it seems they made a few adjustments that makes it line up a bit more with some of the other controllers. Aside from that, it seems to be mostly bug fixes that are kind of specific to certain crashes and issues that people are running into. So check the video description and see the full changelog if you're interested. And that's going to do it for the Steam Deck. Let's move on to AOKZOE. This week for AOKZOE, I have a few things to go over. So first of all, last week I had talked about the Indiegogo campaign ending in a few days after the video went live, but it turns out that they've actually extended the Indiegogo campaign by about a week or so. Now, if you're a backer, don't worry, this isn't supposed to impact the delivery time. It just seems that they're extending it for others that want to purchase it. So it seems that everything is still on course for the original shipping date. Another thing to note is we're waiting for official confirmation, but it looks like they're taking a look at the RAM. So the RAM that it comes with is 7500 megahertz, but they advertise it at 6400. And the reason for this is it seems that the AMD 7840U has some instability with the RAM at 7500 megahertz. But it seems like there's a chance that some of that stability might have been figured out. Now, I'm not sure if this is AOKZOE playing with things or if this is from AMD, but it's good news to hear that potentially we may get 7500 megahertz right out of the gate, rather than having to do like a BIOS update or something later on. So another thing that I've possibly talked about in the past was the VRAM for the 64 gigabyte model. So it seems like they were looking at either 8 gigabytes or 12 gigabytes, and it's starting to look like 12 gigabytes might be a possibility. So we need to wait for official confirmation, but I know it's something that's in the works, and I'll keep you guys up to date as I learn more. So if you're interested in the A1 Pro, I'll leave a link in the video description for their Indiegogo campaign. And if you're getting this, I'd recommend getting it sooner than later so that you can secure the Indiegogo prices. And that's going to wrap it up for AOKZOE. Let's move on to Onexplayer. This week for Onexplayer, we had the Onexplayer 2 Pro shown off in China on June 2nd. So I had talked about this last week, so I just have a few more pictures we can look at today that was posted in the Discord server. And we don't have a lot more information aside from knowing that it's running the 7840U. And it seems like this purple special edition is going to be a China exclusive, but maybe we can convince them to have it come out here. It looks kind of sick. But the good news we can draw from this is that it seems like it's going to be coming soon, so we should get some kind of announcement for what the plans are for the international market. And of course, we're going to have to wait to hear more. As soon as I hear something, I'll make a community post, maybe possibly make a short video on it, one of the news bits. And of course, I'll include it in the weekly recap as soon as we hear more. Some other things that we learned during that event is it seems that Onexplayer is going to be making an external GPU. They're calling it the 1X GPU. It looks like it's going to be running the AMD Radeon RX 7600M XT mobile chip, which seems to be the same thing that GPD is offering. So I'll do a little digging, see if I can get more information on this for next week's video, and maybe I can get some more information on the Onexplayer 2 Pro while I'm at it. Some other news is that the controller grip where you can attach your Onexplayer 2 controllers to should be shipping out sometime this month. I think they're estimating by mid-June. So if you take a look at the picture, you can see that now it's a straight connection. It's not at an angle like it was previously. And this was to prevent some misinputs that they found during their testing. So I have one of those on order. So when it comes in, maybe I'll do a video to demonstrate what it's like. And lastly, the device we've been following for a number of weeks now, the 1X Fly. I don't have any updates, so we'll keep asking them in the server, and of course, I'll let you guys know when I find out more. And that's all I've got for Onexplayer this week. Let's move on to AYN. This week for AYN, we got a brief glimpse into the performance of the Loki Max from Takeudan, which seems to be performing extremely well for a 6800U. He noted that it was outperforming all of the other 6800U devices that he's tested previously, so I'm curious to see what's exactly going on that would lead to this device outperforming the others. But we're going to have to wait for that because unfortunately he had to return his unit due to an issue that AYN needs to resolve. He didn't disclose what the issue was, however, in the AYN Discord, a staff from AYN addressed the issue and they said that there was an issue with a robotic arm from the factory that it applies the glue that holds the screen in place. And the staff at the factory had manually applied it and it was causing some issues with the touchscreen sensitivity. The good news is that they managed to get the issue resolved with the robotic arm, so production is apparently not going to be impacted and they're still on track for a June 9th shipping date. So hopefully the YouTubers that had to return their review units can get them back soon and we can start to get some hands-on reviews and see what this device is truly capable of. So far it looks really promising. One last bit of news for AYN is we got a look at the charger and case for the Loki Max, and the case, in my opinion, looks pretty cool. So that's going to wrap it up for AYN this week. Let's move on to AYANEO. This week, AYANEO launched their AYANEO 2S and Geek 1S campaign. We also got a sneak peek at a new version of the AYANEO 2S that's coming out later this year that features a mini LED screen and an Oculink connection. Just prior to the launch, AYANEO hosted a just under 7-hour live stream where we learned about the devices and we saw them demoed before the Indiegogo went live. Aside from those devices, we also learned that AYANEO is going to be releasing a shell for the 6800U board for those that are going through the upgrade path where you buy the 7840 upgrade kit for the Neo 2, where you can upgrade your Neo 2 to basically be a Neo 2S. This was a great thing to see because it'll reduce e-waste and we can make use of those old boards for those of us that plan to do this upgrade. Earlier this week, I covered the launch event as well as the Indiegogo in one of my Newsbit videos, so if you want more information, check that one out after you're done this video. But for today, I'm just going to breeze through it and just give you the basics. So let's go over the devices that are available now in the campaign. So we have the AYANEO 2S and the Geek 1S, and you might be wondering what's the difference. So let's go over first what they have in common and then we'll go through what's different between the two. So what they have in common is that both devices are running the Ryzen 7 7840U. They both feature that new 3 copper tube heatsink. We're also getting the same shells from the Neo 2 and Geek, so we're getting the baby sleeping position grip. And the controllers on the two are very similar. We have the linear Hall effect triggers on both devices, as well as the large Hall effect joysticks. For I/O, we have the exact same setup in both. That's 3 USB-C ports, 2 that are USB 4 and 1 that's USB 3.2. We have a micro SD card slot with up to 300 megabits per second and a built-in fingerprint sensor into the power button. Both have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.2. They launch with Windows 11 Home Edition and both have the same 50.25 watt-hour battery. So let's cover what's different. So both devices have a 7-inch screen, but the Neo 2S has a 1200p IPS display, where the Geek 1S has an 800p display. One other difference is the vibration. So the Neo 2S has the HD linear motors, where the Geek 1S has dual X-axis linear motors. For size and weight, they're very similar. The Neo 2S is 0.8 millimeters thinner, and the Geek 1S is 0.8 millimeters taller. The weight difference is also minimal. It's a 5-gram difference, where the Neo 2S comes in at 667 grams and the Geek 1S is 672. As far as aesthetics, they're fairly similar, the main difference being that the Neo 2S has a full glass panel on the front as well as a bezel-less screen. And aside from that, the differences come down to some configuration options as well as colors. So for the Geek 1S, you can only get up to 2 terabytes for the SSD and 32 gigabytes of RAM, where on the Neo 2S we can go up to 4 terabytes and we can also get up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. For color options, we have 5 options for the Neo 2S, and those are Starry Black, Sky White, Retro Power, B-Duck Pink and Blue, and B-Duck Joyful Black. And moving over to the Geek 1S, we have 3 options. Those are Fantasy Black, Sky White, and Nebula Purple. Previously, I had reported that if you wanted 64 gigabytes of RAM, you had to get one of the B-Duck editions, but AYANEO has now said that they're going to be available for all colors of the Neo 2S. So if you're interested in this device, I recommend checking it out soon so you can get the early bird prices. I'll leave a link in the video description to the Indiegogo campaign. Very quickly, the price range for the Geek 1S is from $699 USD up to $959 USD for the top configuration. For the Neo 2S, the prices range from $949 up to $1599 for the top model. We don't have prices or any more information for the mini LED version. We should hear about that later this year. And that's going to wrap it up for AYANEO. Let's move on to GPD. This week for GPD, I don't have a lot to go over. The GPD Win Max 2 campaign is still live, so if you're looking to get one of those, you still have time to get on that. As a reminder, there's a couple different APUs that you can go for. There's the 7640U and the 7840U. And for each of those, there's a number of different configurations where you can choose the amount of RAM you get as well as storage. And they even have options where you can bundle your Win Max 2 with a eGPU. So they have the GPD G1, which has a AMD Radeon RX 7600M XT mobile graphic card. Some additional news for the GPD G1 is that they're actually going to have an Indiegogo campaign where you can buy it separately. Right now it seems like it's just bundled with the Win Max 2, but we can see that they have a page live on Indiegogo, which should be coming up, I believe, sometime in mid-June, but we'll have to wait for when it becomes live. You can visit the video description and take a look at the Indiegogo link and just keep an eye on it to see when it comes live. Moving on to the Win 4 refresh, I haven't seen any news this week. I took a look around, but there's a chance that I may have missed something. So if you've come across something, please leave a comment and maybe leave us a link of where you found the information. But anyway, I'll keep watching this and I'll give you guys an update as soon as I come across one. So last week I talked about my Win 4 coming and that I'd be doing a review, but it turns out that Canada Post was just pulling a trust me bro that it would be coming that day, and it's actually delayed till this coming Tuesday. At least that's what they're saying now. So hopefully it'll be this Tuesday and then I can get working on some content for you guys. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's recap. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.